Next on Worcester News tonight, one of the strongest Atlantic storms on record hits the Bahamas and is headed towards Florida. Closer to home, there's concern the damage it's doing, and Dorian is causing all kinds of travel issues. Plus, the Massachusetts AFL-CIO hosts their annual Labor Day breakfast, showing their support of union workers across the state. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Olivia Lemon. Hurricane Dorian, now a Category 4 and still extremely dangerous. As it heads towards the U.S., there is a risk for some unrelated storms in our area. Let's get a first look at our local forecast for more.
Kind of a muggy feel this evening, although temperatures aren't that high. We're in the 60s. We've had some rain coming through over the course of the day, and that rain will now pull away this evening. Skies will gradually start to clear, especially after midnight. Low temperatures will drop back into the 50s to around 60 degrees, depending on where you are. And it's fairly light wind overnight. As kids head back to school tomorrow, or back to work perhaps, a lot of sunshine. Temperatures will start in the 60s for the morning bus stop, and then we're into the 70s to around 80 degrees during the afternoon. Ends up being a really nice day. Of course, while it's fairly quiet here in New England for the next couple of days, we continue to closely watch Hurricane Dorian. It's been battering the Bahamas the last several hours. Each of these lines is a possible path where the storm goes from here. It's likely to parallel the Florida coastline with the core of the strongest winds just offshore through Wednesday. Then it makes a very close pass to the Carolinas on Thursday, and late Friday into Saturday it passes south and east of Nantucket, potentially with some rain and wind for New England. We'll talk more about that with your 10-day in just a few minutes.
Hurricane Dorian is creating travel troubles across the country. Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach airports are closed until further notice. In Worcester, flights to and from Fort Lauderdale are canceled, but flights to Orlando were still on the move this evening. Our Chandler Walsh joins us from the airport with the latest. Chandler.
Olivia, both Worcester's arriving and departing Orlando flights were on schedule today. Some on those flights, like Sammy Rivera, are headed back home and say they don't expect the hurricane to cause much damage there. Sammy Rivera flew to Worcester to escape Hurricane Dorian.
We decided to just scroll up the map and just click and let's go. We're Massachusetts, here we go.
The Category 4 hurricane is delivering catastrophic winds over the Bahamas. The Orlando resident and his family headed to the Worcester airport to go back home Monday, confident they'll be safe from Dorian's changed path.
It veered off, so it was just pretty much like a nice vacation that, wasn't unnecessary, but it was, better safe than sorry.
Jennifer Roth waited for her flight to Philadelphia. From there, she'll be traveling home to Tampa. She isn't concerned the hurricane will hit her area, but says things back home are still hectic.
I work at a grocery store in Tampa, and I know they've been getting devastated with people buying groceries.
Rivera has close friends in the Bahamas. He's been in touch with them, sending them money to help, and says buildings have flooded and collapsed, leaving some people with nothing.
Right now they're in a huge field with everybody else in the island, just with sleeping bags that are soaked in the wet grass, because there's nowhere else to go. Everything else is destroyed. Buildings, houses, everything is gone. He
and his family evacuate anytime a hurricane is near and say staying isn't worth it.
It's just too much. You go to any Walmart, any Publix, doesn't matter where you go, it's empty. No gas stations with signs of no gas, everything.
According to the National Weather Service, Hurricane Dorian's wind gusts were up to 200 miles per hour when it touched down in the Bahamas. Rivera says he's grateful his home is safe, but his thoughts are with his friends on the island. In Worcester, Chandler Walsh, Worcester News Tonight.
Travelers at Logan Airport are also encouraged to check with your airline for the latest flight information. Massport says some airlines are waiving change fees ahead of Hurricane Dorian. In Boston, many travelers say they feel relieved to be there.
Our backup plan was we were going to drive to Atlanta and try to possibly take a flight out of Atlanta. We felt there was a good chance that we would get out, which we did.
Orlando International Airport initially planned to close, but has since changed their plan, and state officials say they will monitor the storm and act accordingly. The body of a fallen soldier from Chicopee returns home this morning. Master Sergeant Luis De Leon Figueroa's body arrived at Westover Airport this morning. It was then transferred to a West Springfield funeral home. Master Sergeant Figueroa was killed last month during combat operations in Afghanistan. A private funeral service is taking place tomorrow. He'll be buried at the Massachusetts Veterans Memorial Cemetery in Agawam. A Labor Day tradition in central Massachusetts. Dozens come out for the annual Labor Day breakfast. City and state leaders took the opportunity to praise workers while also sharing their displeasure with Washington. Our Cam Jandro joins us in the studio with more. Cam.
Yeah, Olivia, the U.S. Department of Labor says there are more than 157 million Americans currently working. That's the highest number ever recorded. 2019 is also the 125th anniversary of Labor Day becoming a federal holiday. Now, speaking with some union members earlier today, they say they've seen significant positive changes over the last decade or so. But when speaking to Congressman Jim McGovern, well, he says he has some concerns moving forward. Celebrating the American worker.
Happy Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day. Elected officials and union representatives in central Massachusetts gather at the 48th annual Labor Day breakfast.
We take for granted so many of the benefits and the protections that we have in the workplace. They're all there because of organized labor.
The AFL-CIO of Central Massachusetts is one of nearly 500 state and local labor unions. Their goal, providing workers in more than 80 cities and towns with sustainable jobs and income.
People shouldn't be out there having to work one job, two jobs, and still living in poverty. So we think if we have the opportunity to say something about it and do something about it, it's our responsibility to do that.
This year, the Central Massachusetts AFL-CIO and United Way handed out more than $15,000 in scholarships to local students.
Most of us see that we're very fortunate in life, what our labor unions have provided for us. So it's an opportunity to give back to the children.
The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports nearly 15 million people nationwide belong to a union. Speaking Monday, Congressman Jim McGovern says he's concerned for those workers, calling out the president.
Donald Trump has targeted organized labor in this country, and workers' protections and worker rights are under assault. We need to fight back. We need to be here to not only celebrate unions, but to rededicate ourselves to moving the cause of workers forward.
Now, Mayor Joe Petty also spoke at today's breakfast discussing the CBA or Community Benefits Agreement. He says the city is hoping to have one signed and have it completely finished by the end of September. In the studio tonight, I'm Cam Jandro, Worcester News Tonight.
Another sure sign of the unofficial end to summer, today was the final day of the season to enjoy Worcester spray parks. The city's 2 spray parks are open until 7 p.m. tonight. The city operates 1 pool, 4 beaches, and 2 spray parks. The beaches and pool closed for the year late last month. Schools across the area are working to crack down on teen vaping. In Worcester, School Safety Director Robert Pezzella says they bought substance detection kits. The device detects what products students are vaping. He says if students are caught with marijuana or other illegal substances, they are referred to Rockdale Recovery High School.
We will be able to detect once a student is apprehended on school property with a vaping device, either they're smoking liquid nicotine or they're smoking liquid THC, which is cannabis. So these devices will be able to ascertain once it's confiscated if the student is using one or the other. And then going forward, we will be able to provide, in lieu of suspension, when kids get caught or students get caught with drugs, some type of support.
Pezzella says a drug and health educator will also be hired to educate students in grades 3 through 12. 5 items on this week's City Council agenda focus on the handling of animal control operations. Councillor Candy Merrill-Carlson filed the items. She's looking to see what the city can do to enforce the safety of pets. Merrill-Carlson says she has received several complaints from residents in her district. She is requesting a review of the current staff and structure of the police department's animal control operations.
So what we want to do is make sure that animals are not in cars when it's 88 degrees outside and the humidity level is extremely high. So that's what this is about. We want to make sure we're not putting our animals in jeopardy.
Merrill-Carlson is also looking to establish an ordinance saying motor vehicles cannot be used as a kennel for pets. A food pantry and resource center at Quinsigamond Community College serves close to 400 students. Staff and volunteers are gearing up for a busy season as students head back to class this week. The college says the pantry was built because of a need on campus. A 2018 study found 49% of QCC students had low to very low food security. The center also includes nutritional training and informational sessions. At more than 100 years old, an annual Labor Day tennis tournament in Princeton is a tradition for many residents. The tournament is for former and current residents. In its 107th year, the tournament is a large part of the town's culture. For some who grew up in the area, they say it wouldn't be Labor Day without the friendly competition of a tennis match.
The whole town gets together and you see people that you haven't seen for 15 years or 5 years or 10 years. So it's always great to come, even if you're not playing, because you usually see someone you haven't seen in a really long time.
The history of tennis in town is pretty deep, and we have 16 or 18 tennis courts in town, mostly individually owned, but open to the public, or open to Princeton residents. And people just play a lot of tennis in this town.
And the Princeton Labor Day Committee says the tournament started when Princeton was a resort town for Bostonians. If you want to compete next year, it's free and open to ages 15 and up.